All right, Tori, we're live.
Per the State of California Executive Order N-2920, this meeting is being held telephonically. All public comment were received by either email or voicemail as noted in the agenda. Commissioners, if you would please mute your microphones till called upon for comment or vote. Now I will let Chairperson White open the meeting.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Tori, do you want to do the roll call?
Okay. Chairperson White.
Here.
Vice Chairperson Christensen. Commissioner Hollingsworth.
Here.
Commissioner Nixon.
Here.
Commissioner Hamlin.
Here.
We have one absent, Vice Chairperson Christensen.
Okay, if you will all locate a flag or think of a flag, we're going to do the pledge. Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. We're going to do the pledge to the flag now. I'm kind of choked. Can I get Commissioner Hollingsworth to do the pledge?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioner White, you may be on mute. There you go.
Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, the first thing we're going to consider is the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the city staff. Consent items will be considered first and may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or public wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public to address the Planning Commission concerning that item before action is taken. Were there any public comments regarding any consent agenda items to be removed?
No public comment was received.
Okay, are there any consent agenda items that the commissioners would like to be removed? And as we've done with these other meetings, I'm going to go down the list and we'll just have to take a roll call on this. So if you have any consent agenda items, now would be the time to speak up. Vice Chairperson Christensen is absent. Commissioner Hollingsworth?
No, I don't have any to pull.
Commissioner Nixon?
No.
Commissioner Hamlin?
None for me, thank you.
And I had none. Okay, so what we'll do now is approve a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Does one of the commissioners want to make that motion?
This is Kim Nixon. I'll make the motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. This is Hollingsworth.
Okay, and now we will take the roll call. Hollingsworth?
Yes.
Nixon?
Yes.
Hamlin?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So let the record show that there was a 4 unanimous votes to accept the consent agenda. Okay, the next item on the agenda, were there any oral or written communications per Executive Order California N-2920 for public comments?
No public comment was received.
Okay, so we will go right to agenda item number 6, the Architectural Design and Site Plan Review number 2020-09 Green Street Micro Village. This is a plan to adopt a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Tehachapi approving architectural design and site plan approval number 2020-09 for the Green Street Micro Village, subject to conditions of approval. Jay or Kim, do one of you have a staff report?
Yes, I have that for you tonight, Commissioners. Thank you. This is Jay Schlosser, Development Director. And you'll have to forgive me. I am trying to literally manage online and my report all at the same time and keep what I'm showing to the public scrolling correctly. So if you have some weird and awkward pauses, please suffer me that. Anyway, again, tonight we are reviewing Architectural Design Site Plan Review number 2020-09, what we've titled the Green Street Micro Village. The applicant is on this call, and following my presentation, I'll bring both the architect and the project applicant off mute, and you guys can meet them and ask them questions that you might have. The project is relatively small. It is a request to construct two new bungalow court-style residential buildings on about a 5,600 square foot lot. That lot is mixed use now, meaning it already contains a barber shop and an office building, as well as a storage shed, and the address at that location is 301 South Green Street. This project would include the demolition of the storage shed for the construction of these two residential units. As far as area is concerned, you can see in Figure 1, we show you the location at E Street and South Green Street for this project. This was a bit of a challenge for us this is one of those, one of those situations where we had an imperfect downtown existing piece of property, and we had to figure out a way to utilize it in a better way and still fit it within our code. So you'll hear me talk about that here in the next few minutes. But an architectural design site plan review was applied for, and a Planning Commission meeting notice was posted for this project on our city website in accordance with our regulations. As far as environmental review is concerned, this project is statutorily exempt as a result of it being an infill project in accordance with California Public Resources Code 21080.7. Following approval, should that be your decision tonight, a notice of exemption will be filed with the Kern County Clerk's Office of Planning Commission, after Planning Commission. As far as project background is concerned, the applicant is Big Sky Dwellings. The architect, or engineer in this case, architect was MW Architects out of Arroyo Grande. Again, I mentioned the location at E Street and Green Street. And you'll see in Section 5 of your report a little bit of information about the property, the zoning classification, and the surrounding uses. Moving on to page 3 of the staff report, you'll see an excerpt from the applicant letter included in the staff report. A full copy of that letter is included as an appendix in the staff report. The existing property contains, again, effectively 3 buildings, 2 to remain, one to be demolished, and the intent is to construct 2 new 550 square foot residential units along Green Street. And again, the intent is to create the concept of a micro village, which is a small set of residential or office style uses surrounding sort of some communal shared spaces or shared parking areas. So again, scrolling down, there's a more detailed project description provided there, again, in the staff report as well as the appendices of the report. The same site is Lucky's Barber Shop. The property is zoned T4.5 with a general plan land use designation of Neighborhood Center, 3B. The Guild of the Tehachapi Hospital is to the north, the Araya House to the south, and a church across the street, as well as single-family home to the west. So moving on to page 4 of the staff report, you'll see our section on general plan consistency. Neighborhood center includes areas of mixed-use development with varying levels of intensity. So the concept, this does fit well into that concept, where you might have an office use immediately adjacent to a residential use, and you might see varying levels of residential use from single-family home to single-room occupancies, such as what is proposed. From a zoning and land use standard, this is where it began to be tricky for us. The zoning code envisions for the T 4.5 a series of ideal building site widths and depths, and it provides a range for each of those based upon the type of the development that you're seeing. So Table 1 in the staff report shows you in the first 3 columns what comes directly out of the zoning code. And in the case of the actual size of the property at 75 feet square, you'll see that this property doesn't fit within any of the potential zoning site widths and depths. And so the zoning code does speak to this condition and suggests that staff and the Planning Commission introduce a level of flexibility into their approval process in these cases when we've got existing lots and structures that force us to consider how best to utilize a piece of property. In this case, the applicant is proposing a bungalow court-style development. Again, to remind you what that is, the zoning code speaks to the bungalow court as a concept of a series of detached structures that coexist on a single piece of property with some shared amenities, typically a shared landscaping space and shared parking. So it marries a traditional single-family home with a duplex, triplex, or apartment-style living so that you get a single-family detached structure, but you otherwise are sharing other resources there on that property. So we felt when the applicant brought this to us that was the best way to consider this process or project. It really is most closely met in that regard. So you'll see on page 5 of the staff report, we define the bungalow court development standards, speaking about size and location, setbacks, front facades, vehicular parking, bicycle parking, landscaping, etc. A notable and important item as demonstrated on table 2 here is that due to the size of the site, they were unable to fit these units on there and still maintain the side setback requirement between buildings. They're very close to the right number, but they just short of that. And then also the side yard between building sites is less than the required 12 feet. So that's highlighted there on table 2 for you if you're tracking with my report. So you'll note in the variance section of this report that we are suggesting a variance be granted in this case. From an architectural standpoint, the applicant is proposing a modern design. Clean lines, contemporary buildings, earth tone colors, metal roofing, vertical wood and batten and board siding, redwood siding, rusted metal siding, concrete pavers and grass joints, horizontal wood fencing. We think it's an attractive look. There's an extensive, in the attachments to the staff report, there are extensive renderings produced by the architect so that you can visualize what they intend for the site. And we certainly know that the building there on the corner, recently revitalized a few years ago, turned out quite well. And so this is, in our opinion, a good marriage of the existing nearby architecture with our small mountain town look by using dark wood and metal siding or metal roofing. These are the types of things that reasonably fit within a small mountain town, as well as meeting the applicant's aesthetic of modern that they're interested in doing. So you can see some photos of proposed architecture here in the staff report and again in the attachments. There's also a materials board that gives some inspirational photos for you all to consider. We're here on page 7 of the staff report, as well as a formal set of elevation views for the 2 structures, which will be duplicate structures to each other there in figure 6. Moving on to page 8 of the staff report, briefly a discussion of landscaping. At this point, the landscaping is very conceptual. Plant selections have not yet been made, but the applicant is prepared to do that. I think what's important to note here is the amount of landscaping required in this zone significantly exceeds what is required in the code. And so, again, we feel like that will help feed a positive-looking project and a sustainable-looking one. So, of course, the project will be conditioned to provide a final landscaping plan and plant palette as part of the building permit application. As far as fences and screening is concerned, we're here at the end of page 8, the beginning of page 9. The applicant is proposing horizontal wood fencing that is compliant with the Tehachapi zoning code in our opinion. Again, there are some detailed renderings showing what that fencing looks like, and I believe this applicant has employed a similar fencing at the remodel of the old Masonic Lodge that is now our library. And again, it's a high quality construction that I think fits well between meeting our desire for it to be kind of a mountain town using wood instead of metal, but also being built in a manner that is an attractive mix with the modern aesthetic. As far as airport compatibility is concerned, this project is within the Zone C of the Airport Land Use Compatibility Plan. That is a limited risk zone with aircraft commonly above 1,000 feet. The proposed land use is considered compatible with that use. Moving on to page 10 of the staff report, this is our discussion of the variance request, again, in order to figure out how to utilize a 75-foot square lot in a manner that maximizes its use while not sacrificing too much of the intended layouts that are included in the zoning code. We do end up with these two requests for minor side yard setback deviations. Just to briefly tell you the genesis of that decision, the applicant originally supplied this project in a manner that met the code from a setback standpoint, but did not meet the code from the requirement to have 2 parking stalls. And so when we went back to the applicant and suggested that the parking stalls were an important component of this, the minor variance request became part of that requirement or request in order to meet the parking requirement, which we felt as staff was more important in this case than these minor setback deviations. Again, we do have an extensive discussion about the justification for making this variance request. Variances should not be granted on the basis of monetary desires, which are the most typical reasons we receive a variance request, but in the case in which a variance is necessary to grant the applicant something that other property owners in the area enjoy. And in this case, these types of setbacks, the reduced size setbacks, are not at all out of place in our downtown, and therefore we felt like we could make the findings to support the variance. So with that said, Section 8, here still on page 10 of the staff report, you guys are required to make findings if you choose to support this project tonight, and we provide those findings as well as some suggested ways in which you can make those findings. You should note here on page 11 that several additional findings, items 6, 7, and 8, are not normally a part of your findings, but are included because of the variance request. And again, we also provide our sample justification for those items. So with that, I'll conclude my staff report with a recommendation that you adopt the resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of Tehachapi approving architectural design and site plan review number 2020-09, the Green Street Micro Village, subject to conditions of approval. And let me now introduce to you Ryan Beecham and CJ, forgive me, CJ, what is your last name? He's the architect. Maybe, I don't know which one of you gentlemen would like to speak, but CJ, I think Ryan is still muted. So would you like to introduce yourself and the project?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, commissioners. This is CJ Horstman, MW Architect. And yeah, thank you, Jay, for the staff report. Very thorough, very well done. I think we've been working closely with Jay and Kim as we've been navigating this site project, and basically his report is a good representation of this project, and definitely here to and available to answer any questions that the Planning Commission has along the way. And yeah, if you want to throw Ryan on here, he might have a little introduction to the project as well, but definitely here to answer any questions.
Thank you, CJ. Ryan, I think you're off mute. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jay. Yeah, it was explained so well. I'm Ryan Beecham. I'm a local contractor and owner of Big Sky Dwellings. I've done a few projects downtown. My wife and 3 kids have been in Tehachapi for 22 years, and my vision, I've worked downtown for the last 3.5 years. I have my office there, and I just have a vision for a vibrant, walkable downtown with a mix of retail and residential that kind of builds our community. I'm about Tehachapi in this downtown community, so I think a project like this fits very well with my vision, and I believe the vision of the city. So That to me. Thanks for hearing this.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Ryan and CJ. I'll turn it back over to you, Commissioner White. That concludes my report.
Okay, I think what we'll do is go ahead. Before we go any further, though, we should ask, is there any other public comment on this item?
No public comments were received. Thank you.
Okay, so I think the best way to handle this, given the restrictions we have with the phone, is to let's just go ahead and let the commissioners ask their questions, and we will call the architect and the developer if we have questions for them specifically, rather than to just do those questions first. So let's start with Commissioner Hollingsworth. Do you have any questions or concerns or anything to address?
Well, I think it's a really inventive way to use a small space. One thing I just wanted to clear up for myself, as we walked around there, it looked like that part of the property that's on the museum is actually part of the property that's going to be used. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I probably should have explained.
Ryan could answer that, or Jay. Who would be best?
Yeah, let me take that one, Commissioner. Ryan's actually just texted me to let me know he's a little distracted, so I've muted him again. Yeah, it's an interesting issue. So the Area House is immediately to the south. It's a museum space, as you guys all know, and they had an easement on this property prior to Big Sky Dwellings ownership of that property for the construction of a garden. There was a deal struck back when the corner property was remodeled to relocate the garden to a piece of property that is directly west of the Area House in exchange for recapturing the garden area for this property owner. So I think that probably quickly summarized. There's a clear understanding that the garden space will be going away as a component of this development, and my understanding is that the Area House will be attempting to reconstruct something of that nature to the west. That actually, Commissioner White, you're probably best able to tell us what the plan is once that garden goes away, but that's my understanding.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. The property we had been using for, I think about 30 years, was part of the property that was sold when Ryan bought that corner, and we struck the deal that was referred to where we gave up our claim on that portion of the property, and in exchange, Ryan gave us a piece of property that was behind the Area House. So we were able to keep approximately the same square footage. Being a small nonprofit, we have run into a lot of problems with our construction and the weather and various other things. But a couple of things we're going to have to speed up on, because it looks like Ryan's ready to go on his project. But that's entirely true, Linda. We lost part of the property he is going to be building. We understood at the beginning, when he bought the property and was kicking around ideas, that he was going to build a commercial building that would be an office building that would be at a zero lot line. And we understood that from the beginning. As it happens, he's changed his plans now to do the two housing units, and one of them will still be zero lot line, but to give a little more breathing space when you're in our garden, one of those buildings has been moved to the north side of the property. So it's not an ideal situation, but it's what we had come to expect. Ryan, did you have anything else to add to that?
I think I've requested for him to be unmuted. Oh, there he is. Ryan?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Charles. My hope as kind of a small developer there was to be able to gain something, but be able to give the array house, something that they could own themselves and never have to go through this again. So that was the deal that was kind of struck by me and you just standing in the garden one day. So yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Okay, well, that was just wanted some clarification on that. Other than that, I wanted to just verify the parking places is just that small area in front. There'll be room for 2 vehicles. Is that right? Just in that little area that's right off Green.
That's correct. They'll be sharing a
Okay.
single driveway, and there is sufficient space, in our opinion, to meet the requirements for 2 parking stalls.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, and of course doesn't play into it, but what kind of rent would be coming from these kinds of units? Do we have any estimate?
Okay. Well, I'll turn that over to the applicant. Ryan, I don't know if you're able to, there you go.
Yeah, he may not have an answer. I just was curious about that. They look really nice. They look I think it looks very nice. I think it would be a nice addition.
I think my original vision was, a young couple could rent something like this between $1,200 and $1,500 a month. I don't know if you guys know it, but rentals in Tehachapi are really, really hard to come by. So I think these residences would do very well. You know, a young engineer that's working, they could work out of their home or, down at, whatever, Scaled or one of these places. But I think that's what the rent rate would be, between $1,200 and $1,500 a month.
Okay, I know that doesn't necessarily play into it, but I was just interested. I agree with you. A young couple, single person who wants to live near town where they can get to things. I thought it had it's a nice concept. Anyway, that's my only comment on it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nixon.
Oh, thank you, Chairperson White. I like the project. I like the fact that they're thinking out of the box and doing something really inventive with that property. I don't really have any questions. The only comment I would make is that I would like to see it match the existing office structure that's already on the property, as far as colors and layout and stuff. So I think that the trade-off or the variance for the setbacks in order to get the parking spaces is really a wise thing to do. So that's all I have.
Very good.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Nixon. Commissioner Hamblin.
Yes, just 2 quick comments. I think I'm echoing what Commissioner Nixon just said, but I think the applicant and the architect have done a nice job of complementing the new building designs with the existing building design. I think there's a good view of that on page DP7. And so, yeah, well done. It looks really nice. I think the variance request does make sense due to this lot size as well. So it looks like a win.
Okay. And as far as my comments go, I've already expressed some of those, but I worked with Ryan on some other projects, and those of you who know the office building that's on the corner of F and Robinson, that small building, was his first project, which he did brilliantly. And then the second one, of course, was the old Masonic Lodge, which has now become the library. Did an excellent job on that. And the corner property itself, when he renovated the old dentist's office into the 2 buildings that are done, did an excellent job. And I think we all can agree that he does an excellent job, not only with the design, but with the execution. And I take him at heart when he says he has the community good in his heart, because he seems to want to do what's right, and this seems like a good project for this corner. Of course, from a standpoint of the array house being next door and losing our garden and some of the changes there. Those are not ideal for us, but we knew they were coming, so we were expecting them. So we're fully on board with that. There has, as far as the parking goes, we have seen a big increase in parking with Joe's Barbershop there. It's not bad. You can always still find parking on the street, but I think it was wise, that the city insists that he have the two places for the two dwelling units. I think it'll be a while before parking really becomes a major problem in that area. It hasn't so far, especially with things being closed down. There's not much need for parking right now. Let me see what my other notes were. Some of the other things were already addressed. I think basically that's all I had. I just welcome Ryan's further investment in the downtown area. Hopefully, we're seeing a slow change in things, and it's for the good. So I would support the project. That's the end of my comments. And what we will do now, if there are no other questions, we can entertain a motion to adopt a resolution of the Planning Commission to approve the design and site plan number 2020-09 Green Street Micro Village, subject to the conditions of approval. Is there a motion?
So moved, Hamblin.
Second, Nixon.
Okay, we will now take a roll call. Hollingsworth?
Yes.
Nixon?
Yes.
Hamlin?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So let the record show it was unanimous. The 4 commissioners attending have all voted yes to accept the project. Okay. We can move on. Do any of the commissioners have any reports? Let's start with Hollingsworth. Any comments or questions or reports?
No, I have no comments or reports.
Okay. Nixon?
No, I have nothing.
Hamlin?
Nothing from me, thank you.
And nothing from me. That makes it a very quick meeting, doesn't it? We have one other item, the reports from any of the staff on development services.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't have any formal items for you guys tonight. I do, maybe the only one that comes to mind that you guys may be interested in is that we are exploring, we had budgeted for and are exploring a fairly sizable update to our sign codes for this fiscal year. We postponed that effort due to COVID at the beginning of the fiscal year, but it looks like we may be able to begin that process again. So there has been significant legal changes on the national level as it relates to how you regulate signs, and so we're always endeavoring to be as close to on the mark with our codes as possible. So keep that in mind. If we start that process, we'll probably have a number of conversations regarding that since that's kind of one of the trickier items that you all regulate. So other than that, Kim unfortunately was unable to join us tonight. She's not feeling well, so keep her in your thoughts and prayers, if you please. She's thankfully at home, so that's in this day and age, it often means more than that when you say somebody's not feeling well. But anyway, hoping she'll be coming back to us soon. And that concludes my report tonight.
Okay, well, it made for a very short meeting, but Ryan, if you're still with us, we're so happy that you're doing these projects and glad that we could go ahead and approve it tonight. Okay, and so what we will do is adjourn the meeting now. It's 6:37.
Very good.
That was really a short meeting. I miss all the chit-chat we had before and after.